What's up, everybody? Jake Blickenstaff coming back at you in another podcast. So this is the Northeast Georgia Real Estate Podcast, and I'm excited today. I got a good buddy of mine, Chris Purvis. He's the vice president of First Citizens Bank, one of their branches, and he's also a business banker. So Chris, I know about you. I would love if you just take a couple minutes and talk about who you are, what you do, kind of how you got into the business, and how you got started.
Sure. So thanks for having me, Jake.
Yeah.
Coming at you from Athens or close to Athens. But yeah, Chris Purvis. I've been in banking since 2006. Before that, I flew airplanes and had an aviation background. But had a kid, and being a certified flight instructor, you don't get paid much money. So I kind of got into sales, started selling cell phones. This is a long time ago. And found my way to Wachovia Bank back in 2006 and started making pretty good money and moved around in my career and stuck with it. And here I am, 17 years later.
That's a pretty successful career. Yes, I actually heard something funny about Wachovia. It was We'll Watchovia.
Yeah, there were some good nicknames out there, but Wachovia was a great bank. I think it was where I got my grassroots. The training was very instrumental and fundamental. It lasted a long time. Nowadays, banking training lasts maybe 3 weeks. Back then, it was like 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Very intense. But you learned a lot about being a great banker and what it means to clients when you build relationships. So I loved it. And today, I use some of those things that I learned back in 2006.
That's fantastic. I mean, you said something that is really kind of near and dear to my heart, which is the building the relationships part. I think there's so many people, probably not only in your industry, but I know for a fact in mine, where real estate agents, they're just very transactional.
Yeah.
So it's like, once you get done with the process with the client that you're working with, then now it's, wash my hands and I got to go back out and do it again.
Yep.
And the previous client's never going to hear from you again, unfortunately.
Yep. Unfortunately, you're right. Yep.
But tell me a little bit about like how long you've been in the Athens area, community, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I live out in Jefferson, so not far from Athens. I've been in Jefferson since 2021. But prior to that, I was in Barrow County, so Winder. I have spent a lot of time out in Athens trying to grow my name, trying to grow the First Citizens brand out here. And we've had some success. My daughter actually goes to tech. She got into Georgia at first, and she wants to be an engineer. So obviously I knew that if she got into tech, she would go there, and she has. But I've been in this surrounding community since 2004, so I've been here for a long time.
Okay, awesome.
Consider this home for sure.
So you got some roots, that's for certain.
Absolutely, yeah.
So what would you say that separates you or like your bank from some of the other banks that are in the area? Like what makes you guys different?
Well, so I'll start off with myself first because I believe I bring my business to the bank, right? So the bank's just a place for me to kind of park myself and offer products and services to my clients, but I do pride myself on my ability to provide urgent, timely service to my clients. Mm-hmm. So when I get a referral, whether it's something that I've generated myself or from someone like you, another client, whatever it is, my communication back to that person is going to be super quick, super fast. I feel like if my urgency is ahead of everyone else that's in this process from start to finish, whether it's a refinance or a purchase, that things will get done the right way.
Yeah.
So I pride myself in making sure that deadlines are never missed, they're always exceeded. That's appraisal, that's environmental, that's title, whatever it is, the closing date. I want to be ready a week before closing to make sure nothing's going to go wrong at the closing table. But it's not just that. It's really whoever I'm meeting with, whether it's a referral from someone like you or something I find, whatever it is, it's about building that relationship with that person, right? Yep. Because I feel like my job, really, I'm a commercial lender, but my job is to build trust. Mm-hmm. That's what I do for a living. That's all I do is build trust. I mean, yeah, I do a loan for a client, but without trust, there's no relationship, there's no foundation, there's no next steps, there's no, hey, I know Chris, he did my loan, let me for you. There's none of that stuff's there. So I think the most important thing that I do is build trust with my clients. And from there, everything else kind of falls into place.
Yeah, having that trust is instrumental because for us being professionals in the industries that we are, we're in the advice business.
Yep.
So we have to be able to give the advice that we think is the best for that decision or whatever whatever's going on for that person.
Yep.
And they have to be able to trust what we're giving them so that way they're not second guessing the entire time.
Yeah, and I didn't mention about the bank. So the bank, I think, is very unique also. So the bank, I joined First Citizens back in March of 2021, so about 2.5 years ago. And it's been a great ride. But the bank is very unique. Every bank I've worked at sells relationships, and it's a big part of what they preach and what they do. But we truly are all about relationships. We do not want to be transactional. We want to bank the client from A to Z, for sure. Mm-hmm. So when I come out to meet with a client, prospect, whatever it is, I come with a team. So I'm there as the person that advises the client on the best way to structure a loan, the pricing. I do all the legwork in terms of finding out how they make money, with the client, how they got into the business, and I present the deal to credit for a decision, right?
Yeah.
But also I bring a team out that also handles the client's everyday banking, from deposits to treasury to merchant, all that kind of stuff.
So one-stop shop.
Yeah, and so we're a full-service bank, so we don't want to just do the loan and then never see them again. We want to do everything for them. So start here and kind of end over here.
And obviously, when somebody does switch over all of their assets to like one branch like that, that gives more trust for you guys. Correct. To be able to maybe say, hey, we can give you, I don't know what that looks like, I'm just spitballing here, like maybe discounted rates or better incentives or better deals on different things if like you have the majority of their portfolio with you guys. Right?
Everything's with a relationship, yeah. So I mean, there's things they may not have with their bank now. For example, they may have all their money in a checking account. Well, right now banks are paying a lot of interest on money markets and or CDs, right? So we can offer them things like that. We can also offer things like wealth management. High net worth clients can meet with Premier Banking. So there's things we do to make sure we're meeting our clients' needs, not just on the business side, but every side of their life.
One of the things that I always tell my clients is it's important to have a local banker or a local person handling your lending when it comes to both commercial and residential. You want to look at their business card. If they have an 800 number on it, more than likely you're not going to get the opportunity to speak face-to-face with the person that you're dealing with. Yes. So having a local person, somebody that you can go knock on a door like, hey, what's going on with this? And be able to get answers, I think that's extremely important.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. I'm not going to badmouth any bank. That's just not who I am. But a lot of banks have shifted away from the face-to-face time to going out and meeting the client at their office, learning about their business. And that's really kind of how you should bank a client, right? Calling a call center is not personable, and it's hard to really read body language over the phone. You can't understand someone and get to know them that way. So I still believe in going out and meeting the client. If I got to knock on the door or it's a referral, whatever it is, but going in and ultimately being at their place of business. Yeah. It's important.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back into that know, like, and trust for the relationship building.
Yes, it does, yes.
So let's dive into something a little bit more sexy. Tell me about some of the successes that you've had in the industry so far.
Yeah, I mean, so I haven't had a lot of success, but, I don't think of it as numbers, as success. I feel like every time I help a client, that's a success, right? That's a win for me.
Absolutely.
It's a win for the client too. So in this current environment, back during 20 and 21 when rates were, 3% or whatever they were at the time, everyone was taking advantage of that, right? And it was kind of that's kind of how things were then. But this year has been a year just of fulfillment for me because I've been able to go out to meet with clients that are in loans like today that I feel like they've outgrown. Mm-hmm. So when you start a business and you need a different type of loan to start that business or buy that property or whatever you're doing, after you serve that time, there's a time to get out of that loan, right? And go into a conventional loan, which is what I offer most of my clients. And so if I can take someone out of paying 10 or 11% right now and lock them in, let's just say in the mid sixes or high sixes, and save them $500,000, $1 million in interest over the course of the life of that loan, that to me is a win. And, we have tools, all banks have tools, and we can kind of see public knowledge out there that's out there with what loans are out there on certain properties and stuff like that. So I can walk into a prospect's office and clearly speak about what I know, what the environment's doing, what I can offer them, and what I can save them. And if they accept and we move forward, I'm able to take them out of that and save them a bunch of money. That's a win for me.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you had touched kind of on like with what was going on in the market. We're going to dive into that a little bit more here in just a moment. But I really want to touch on like what makes a great client for you as far as like property type or asset class. What do you guys love to lend on, or what are you looking for in this current climate? Be like, man, if this came across our table, we would just eat it up. Or it's like, no, we kind of shy away from this type of asset.
I mean, every bank has their appetite in terms of what they do and do not like. but I'm not a specialist. So I'm not going to say, Jake, I only want to do medical, or I only want to do vets, or I only want to do this. When I'm out knocking on doors, or when I'm out talking to brokers and agents like yourself, I don't pigeonhole myself into one type of client, industry, vertical, that kind of stuff. There are things that we don't do from an appetite standpoint, like we don't like hotels or motels or mobile home parks. There are things that we might look at differently, like let's say a C-store, than we would like a medical office building. So every scenario is different, and every scenario is going to have different types of like loan terms and loan pricing and loan to values. But besides a couple that I mentioned, there's not really anything that I wouldn't look at. And I want to be the guy like where if I can't do it, I want to find somebody for you that can. Yeah. And I have a lot of friends in the industry that if I can't do it, I'm going to give you the best experience for sure and be very fast to let you know, hey, so-and-so referred you, or hey, so I prospected you, but I've looked at this, I can't do it, but I've talked to X, Y, and Z at this bank, and they can. Yeah. So I don't want to be the no guy. I want to be the, I can't, but this person can. Let me get you in front of them.
Yeah, at least provide some.
Yeah, backup. Yeah, for sure.
So with everything that is currently going on in the markets, obviously, unless you've been living under a rock, we know that rates are higher than they were last year. Yep. Higher than they were the year before. Yep. So now this actually isn't crazy because for the last 30 years, rates have kind of on average been around 6-7%. Yeah. So what challenges are you seeing in the market, and how are you kind of overcoming that with the current rate climate, and with loans are still closing every day?
Loans are still closing.
But what does that look like from your guys' perspective?
It's been an interesting year to say the least. Obviously, with the Fed raising the rate, 5.25% so far, 5.5%, something like that. But the good thing is, and a lot of actually, I'd say 90%, maybe more than that, of folks who are in real estate, commercial real estate, and business owners don't know how pricing works on loans, right? So you've got the prime rate, which is what has been elevated or raised over the course of the Fed raising rates over X amount of months. It went from 3.25 at its lowest, which was recent, 2021-ish, up to now I think it's 8.5%. Mm-hmm. That's a big jump, obviously. Oh, yeah. The good thing is conventional commercial loans are tied to like the 10-year treasury, a more longer term stable type of instrument, right? Yep. So when the Fed does raise rates, it does indirectly kind of hurt or change the market, which changes the treasury. So the treasury obviously is up from what it was pre-COVID in 2021. But right now, I think our rates are sitting anywhere, and these are all just kind of varying scenarios, mid sixes to low sevens, depends on loan size, loan to value, that kind of stuff. But the good news is it's kind of plateaued here recently. We haven't seen too much change. But I wouldn't say the challenges this year have for me have been, I don't want to say it's a challenge, but I've seen less purchases. Yeah. Okay, so inventory, obviously there's a shortage of inventory, especially in industrial. Mm-hmm. And then you've got this shift from certain type of assets class that banks are making that they don't want to look at right now because of the environment. So I've kind of changed my strategy. Now, people are still sending me deals, and I have closed purchases this year, but I've kind of wanted to go after the clients that I feel like need more help. And those are the ones that are in those loans I talked about, where they're in variable rate loans that are tied to prime. So I've been marketing to those clients, marketing to clients that are in loans that have maturities coming up that I can see, where I know I can add value. So I wouldn't say it's been a challenge. It's just I've had to change my strategy in my business from a lot of purchase business to kind of a mixture of purchases and a lot of refinance. I'm just trying to go out there and add value. Yeah, that's kind of all I'm trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Add value to either side, and connections like you, trying to add value to your life and make sure you understand what we can do and how we can help your clients do. So.
Yeah, it's difficult. The cost of capital with the increase in rates, that's kind of ties into why you might not have seen as many purchases for this year. Yep. Just because the property value is potentially going up. Rents or income on a particular property, they might be going up, but they're only going up 3% for inflation, and that's only at rent increase time, so usually on an annual basis, depending on the property type. So, all of these start kind of playing into the fact of, most people aren't necessarily buying things
Yep.
right now unless they're getting a good deal on it. It's
Yep.
off market or something to that effect, or you're really paying all cash. So then that way you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, you did ask a challenge. So one challenge was, so I have seen a couple of instances where today's rates did deter buyers from buying because they see the payment, right, and they just didn't want to make that payment.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, and I'm not the advisor, that's kind of where you guys do your stuff, is like, well, your rent and your lease is going to be just as much, if not, than the mortgage payment is. So it's a give and take, it's a pull and tug for sure. But I've seen where a company might be on the edge of getting approved for a loan or cash loan for a loan, for example, and then the rate kind of just brings it underwater. So that's some challenges, but that's a challenge in any environment, honestly. And again, I'm just trying to add value however I can. So I feel like if I talk to the right people, target the right people who need help, at the end of the day, I'll have some wins for them.
Yeah, and I think it's important from my perspective to have good relationships with individuals exactly like you.
Yeah.
So that way we can play that kind of advice game back and forth of, hey, what's the client's goals? What are you trying to accomplish? Because once we know that, then we can say, well, maybe a sale like with a lease back is a good option for you. Or if that doesn't work and I come across an individual that has a note coming due, be like, hey, you need to get in touch with Chris so that way he could potentially look at doing some kind of loan modification or refinance, getting you into something that's fixed over a long term. But I do know that that's one of kind of like my main talking points whenever I'm talking to clients.
Absolutely.
It's just like, what's your current situation look like with your mortgage balance that you have on the property?
Yep.
Because that's always something that, like you said, if I can't necessarily help you buy, sell, or acquire or disposition of property, I might be able to put you in contact with somebody that might be able to save you some money, or keep you in your building. So with that, what do you see that's going on in the market? Like, where do you think that we're going to be? I mean, granted, we're looking at our crystal ball now.
Yep.
So 6 months ago, at the beginning of January, nobody thought, or at least I didn't, that we were going to be where we're at rate-wise. And so now what I want to do is kind of play the crystal ball game and like, where do you think that we're going to be come January 2024? So that way when we do this again, we can look back and be like, hey, we were totally wrong, or we were right with what was going on, and basically just doing a little trend analysis.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think in January or February, I would never have thought we would be. I mean, like you said, compared to the past or historical things are kind of rooted, we're not that far off. I mean, I don't think we are. We're higher than what we're used to for sure. When I started banking in 2006, prime was 8.25.
Yeah.
Okay, and the economy was doing great. I mean, it was, and then it crashed right in 08. So I mean, now prime's higher than that, but for the last 15 years, it's been low, real low.
Yeah.
And mortgage rates have been low, like really low. So, speculation is that the Fed's going to raise prime another quarter point.
Okay.
That's speculation. I've seen that on numerous articles. LinkedIn's one of them for sure. I think I saw a debrief from the last meeting. That was it last week, last Wednesday, I think it was.
Yeah.
That's kind of on their mind. So, if what's happened in the past where the Treasury's kind of touted around when prime has gone up, maybe it goes up. It's hard to say. I mean, it really is hard to say, but I could expect that increase unless inflation all of a sudden overnight drops. So I don't know, man. It's a tough time. I think you've probably done more insight on this, looking at your screen, maybe what you've heard from your CCIM courses, but I wish I had a crystal ball. I do, because I would tell people. Actually, you know what? So I obviously have a client. I can't name the client's name, but he's in one of those loans where I could save him a bunch of money, right? He's got a prepay penalty to get out of that loan right now of 1%, but I want to save him about $4,000 a month. He recoups that prepay in 4 months. Not bad, right? Mm-hmm. That's just the reduction in payment. Not to mention the interest I will save him, which is like 5%.
Over the life of the loan.
Which is a lot of money.
Significant.
Yeah. But he's like, well, if we close in 45 days, then I'm only 2.5 months out from that prepay going away. So I think I want to wait. I was like, I don't have the crystal ball to rub and tell you where rates are going to be. I wish I could. I can tell you recently we haven't seen too much movement, but look at the Dow. I mean, we never know what's going to happen with the Dow. So with this guy, I hope and I pray things go the right way and they kind of stay where they're at. And we can get him either way. He's going to refinance, because if it goes up even more, then he's going to get that much crushed. He's going to be paying that much more interest.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, man, it's a waiting game. I know we have an election next year coming up. I think things will change. I don't know which way they'll change, which direction they're going to go.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be an interesting year for sure.
Yeah, and I've said this before, that usually whenever the Fed gets involved, they're like the drunk guy at the college party. They're late to show up and they're the last one to leave.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately, they're going to stick around until kind of the pain is felt all across the economy. And one of the big factors that I've noticed, especially like on the residential side, is that prices aren't going down just because there's not the inventory to be able to support the higher interest rates.
Yep.
Everybody keeps thinking, oh, there's going to be a crash. In my opinion, my crystal ball that I'm looking at is that there's not going to be, unless there's some kind of like massive black swan event that happens outside of the housing market. So like if we go to war, if something else happens or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's just really not enough inventory to support, even on the commercial side.
No.
Like I have probably about 15 clients right now that I could put in between 5,000 to 10,000 square feet of warehouse space instantly here in the Athens area.
Yep.
So if you guys are watching this and you have any new stuff hitting the market that's at a good rate, let me know. I can put somebody in it. But other than that, I want to dive a little bit more into so any of the business owners or entrepreneurs that are out there. What advice would you tell yourself when you first got into this industry? Like, I know I got some stuff that I'm probably going to add that I would have told myself, but I always love hearing that as far as like, from the 17 years that you've got career-wise up to this point. Is there anything that you tell yourself day one that to, keep yourself going and fired up?
Tell myself as a banker?
Yeah.
I would say, that's a good question. I would just say, and I go back to this, so my background is I started off in retail banking in Wachovia. I was a banker. Then Wells Fargo bought Wachovia out. I managed a branch. And then I got promoted. I managed a district out in Mississippi. And I got moved back to Atlanta. I managed a district in Alpharetta. Went to SunTrust. I managed 15 branches. So my background was kind of that retail banking, background. That's kind of what I did for a long time. From player to coach to big coach. But business banking was something I always wanted to get into. So a friend of mine gave me my shot back in 2017, and I'm thankful for that ever since then. But the things I do now as a banker are the same things I did when I was in retail. So the things I was taught at Wachovia, the fundamental activity, skill, behavior, building connection relationships, are the exact same things I do now. There's nothing different. And when someone asks you, when you're going through a 101 or maybe a bid review or something like that or whatever, someone is like, what's your plan? My plan's never changed. I'm not going to change what I've been doing. Now, does that mean I want to have a great month every month? Probably. I'm going to have ups and downs, but I want to have a good year every year because I want to do the things that work consistently. Now, sometimes you're going to have some lulls, but over time, if you stick to the basics, they work. Mm-hmm. So for me, although I'm not in a branch, I'm not like calling clients to come into the branch. For me, the activity really is meeting folks like you, meeting CPAs, going to networking events, going out prospecting, getting my name out there is the activity that I do. The skill I do is building trust. That trust is with anyone, you, an end user, an investor, whoever it is, right? And the end result is I'm going to produce great for that client, the end user, and for myself as well, my family. So I just think, back then when they fed that stuff to me, I was 29, I was young, I thought I knew the world, and I didn't. But now I realize the simple things work. Simple, less is better. Less is always better. Right?
That's such a phenomenal talking point. One of the best ways I ever heard that explained was Bruce Lee. He said that he's not afraid of the guy that knows or that has done 10,000 different punches one time. He's deathly afraid of the guy that's done one punch 10,000 times.
Right. Yeah.
And so that kind of that goes into the fundamentals and the basics.
Yeah.
Of like everybody that gets into like entrepreneurship or their own business, they're like, I need to know the secret to be able to make this successful.
Right. Yep.
Well, the secret is, and it's not sexy. It's just the daily work that you do consistently.
That's right.
And one of the other kind of like analogies to tie that in is that there's no such thing as black belt techniques. Like when it comes to like martial arts, they're just fundamental techniques that are done repeatedly at a black belt level.
That makes sense.
And so, I mean, when you look at it and think of it like that, like I would tell myself, like, just get really, really great at doing the basics. and do it consistently, and you'll outwork everybody else that's in the industry.
Yeah, hustle will out trump talent all the time.
I mean,
and so I hustle every day. Like I get up, I work out. That routine has changed as I've gotten older, but that's the first thing I do. Come back home, take care of my kids and my wife. Drop kids off at school, and then I'm at the office grinding. But the important things for me is work-life balance, right? So getting up early, getting my time in, getting back to the family, and then going to work and then getting back to the family is just as important. So you got to do it right, and I'm consistent every day. I'm like a robot. I hate to say that, but I am. Well, it's routine.
You got to be.
Yeah, I mean it's routine.
When you bring the best version of yourself to the table every day, it's hard for the rest of your life not to fall in place.
It is.
And so by doing that with, another analogy is they talk about like when you're on the plane in an emergency, you got to put your mask on and get your oxygen flowing first before you can help somebody else. Yeah. So you got to make sure your health and wealth and fitness and finances are all in line.
You do.
Before you can sit out there and take care of the rest of the family and everybody else.
That's right.
So I have greatly appreciated this, but before we finish up, if there's anything like any last like nuggets that you want to drop, whether it's business or success or health or whatever, I'd love to hear it. So that way, provide a little bit.
I would just say I wouldn't say nuggets or anything like that or success, but I would just encourage business owners that are out there that may listen to this. If you've got a banker, you got a bank that you've been with for a long time, and you're making a move, thinking about making a move, whatever it is, it never hurts to have a second opinion. You don't know what you don't know, and what I have found this year especially is that to be more true than ever, because people are paying more than they should. They're not getting the advice they should. They don't have the trust they should have in their banker or their bank. So I think it's extremely important because you're never going to need your banker until something goes wrong, right? And you don't know right now what could be going wrong with your bottom line. Or if on the inverse, if you got a bank, if you're the bank and you've got fraud and something happens, you know, a banker that you can trust. I mean, I always think a second opinion is needed for sure. Mm-hmm. You're trying to grow, you're trying to exit, you're trying to move, whatever it is, there's nothing wrong with calling someone else for a second opinion. Yep. You're not cheating on that banker. Right. If you had to have open heart surgery, if you had to have your kidneys taken out, I mean, I'm sure you wouldn't
want to get a second opinion.
You should probably want to get a second opinion. It's the same thing when you're doing your finances, right? I mean, your business is your livelihood, or if you're an investor, you're buying this real estate. So I think a second opinion is always valuable because you don't know what you don't know.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I couldn't agree more. Below this video, you're going to have all of Chris Purvis's contact information, phone number, email. Link to your site to be able to get pre-approved. And I would stress that if you currently have any commercial assets, don't wait until the end of your note or whenever that's coming due to reevaluate what your situation is going to be. One of the best tools that you can do in the investment space, you decide when you're going to disposition a property during the holding period, not when you are ready to disposition it. So, reach out to me and reach out to Chris, no matter what your commercial banking situation looks like. Let him be that second opinion and potentially voice a reason. But other than that, it's been an absolute pleasure, man.
It's always
glad to have you.
Yeah. Appreciate
and make sure to tune in to the next episode. So we'll see you guys on the next one. As we wrap up another episode of the Northeast Georgia Real Estate Podcast, I want to extend a big thank you to our remarkable guest, Chris Purvis. He did a phenomenal job explaining his business, his involvement in the community, and really how he's able to help you with all things commercial real estate loans. Now, to all of you property owners out there, whether you're considering buying, selling, or leasing commercial or residential real estate in the greater Atlanta, Northeast Georgia area, or even the western upstate portion of South Carolina, remember that we are here to support you. Our dedicated team is ready to guide you through every step of your real estate journey to make it as painless as possible. Our team is an absolute powerhouse, featuring specialized commercial agents who excel in leasing and sales across diverse categories, including office, retail space, industrial properties, and multifamily residences. Now, on the residential side, our agents specialize in everything from traditional single-family homes to luxury estates, even navigating the intricate world of REOs and short sales. And here's something exciting for all you licensed agents across the Southeast, covering South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. If you are seeking a supportive community of real estate professionals who can act as your mentors, advisors, coaches, and friends, look no further. Here at VPR First Team, we provide exclusive one-on-one access to some of the most successful commercial and residential realtors and brokers in the field. So if you're looking to learn, grow, and thrive in your real estate career, or if you're on the hunt for a new home, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're here to make your journey a smooth one as well. So thank you for joining us on another episode of the Northeast Georgia Real Estate Podcast. If you enjoyed the insights shared today, remember to subscribe, rate, leave a comment, share with your friends. And until next time, keep those dreams alive. We'll catch you on the next episode.